Now, you may remember 10 News investigative reporter Mike Deeson first focused on Curtis Stokes 2 weeks ago when Stokes went back on his promise not to run for re-election if he was appointed to fill a vacancy on the council.
I'm doing a story called Liar, Liar, Pants on Fire. Why should you not be included in that story?
Well, now it seems that Stokes could be in trouble again tonight. Mike has been following the councilman's missteps, and he joins us now with another story you'll see only on 10. Mike, what have you learned?
Well, Mel, Councilmember Curtis Stokes owns several pieces of property in Tampa, but not all of them are in what you might call Chamber of Commerce condition. And now Stokes, who tells me he considers himself a banker and not a politician, even though he's running for re-election, is saying he's doing everything he can to make sure his properties meet Tampa code.
The windows and doors on this house and the one next to it off Palm Avenue in Tampa are being boarded up. Code enforcement head Jake Slater says the dilapidated house doesn't meet code and it's a danger to the community. This has been a crack house, basically.
That's what I've been told, yes.
However, the owner, City Council member Curtis Stokes, won't take any of the blame. How did these get into such disrepair?
Well, I had a family living here that moved out and tore it up.
But they say it's been like this for a long time.
No, it's been like this since the people moved out in June.
So, June, this is December, that's 6 months. Stokes says by having workmen board up the house and posting no trespassing signs, he's doing his civic duty to keep the neighborhood safe. It doesn't bother you that we're at this point now?
What point?
We've got 1, 2, 3 code enforcement guys. The police department has contacted code enforcement and said it's a drug hole, and you own them and you're on council. That doesn't bother you?
Police, these aren't drug holes. This is a quiet neighborhood. Look at it. It's not a drug hole.
And while Stokes denies that the property is a drug hole, Tampa police contacted code enforcement after receiving complaints from neighbors and officers who patrol the area. And when they did an investigation, they found drug paraphernalia and condoms strewn about the inside.
All I can tell you is what I was told from actually Tampa PD, that it's been this way for quite a while.
And they were concerned?
Yes, they were concerned.
But Stokes doesn't appear concerned, and the council member who isn't embarrassed by going back on his word to seek re-election to his appointed seat doesn't seem to be embarrassed by his property problems either. Does it embarrass you at all that as a person that's on council has places that code enforcement has to come out?
Code enforcement is all over town, Mike. Code enforcement just on this property. Code enforcement is all over town.
Now, Stokes will receive a letter from code enforcement this week telling him what he has to do to keep his properties from being condemned and knocked down. Of course, he'll stay on top of the story and keep you updated.
Christmas presents come in all shapes and sizes, but the best one for the Miguel Labrador family has no bow. It's their new home.
I want to give thanks to God, first of all, because God made the miracle in our lives.
It's a very different scene this year than it was 2 years ago when we first met Teresa Alicon and her husband Miguel Labrador. He has ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, and needs care 24/7. The electricity had been turned off in their small home back then, where Miguel had to sleep in his wheelchair, shower outside, and be carried to the bathroom, and they were facing eviction.
I need somebody help me, please.
The family got some community help. Their landlord let them live free until he fell on hard times earlier this year and said they had to go. And once again, the housing authority told them the waiting list for public housing was closed.
Nobody helps me.
But when this 4-bedroom house became available, and after a series of calls to the housing authority, the family was able to move in. You look like a different person.
Tú luces como una persona diferente.
Estoy más nuevo.
I'm new. I'm younger.
Now Miguel can sleep in a bed. He can get into the bathroom by himself, use a lift, and take a shower inside. 16-year-old Miguel Jr., 9-year-old Jessica, and 6-year-old Melanie each have their own bedroom.
Thank you, Mike.
Gracias. Thank you, Mike.
And while Teresa says she doesn't know what else to say, as she wipes away the tears of joy, she's aware of one thing.
I am very, very happy. And we are blessed. We are blessed by God.
And it's a blessing that shows at the edge of despair, there can sometimes be help, hope, in a Christmas miracle. Mike Deeson, 10 News.
Tonight, 10 Connects reporter Mike Deeson investigates the organization run by her family and exactly where all the donation money is going.
Betrayest thou?
After a decade of battles and thousands of supporters, Terri Schiavo was declared not alert in a permanent vegetative state in 2005. And despite appeals to President Bush, then Governor Jeb Bush, the Congress, and the courts,
It's sick, it's heinous what is happening to my sister, and I assure you, she is not dying peacefully.
Terri died March 31st.
Terri is now with God, and she's been released from all earthly burdens.
As a member of our family, unable to speak for yourself, you spoke loudly.
And more than 5 years after Terri Schiavo died at this Pinellas Park hospice, which was the scene of so many of those protests, lawsuits, and even congressional action, her family is still working to keep her name alive. And according to these IRS records we've obtained, they're also profiting off of her name.
What they're doing, they should be ashamed of. If Terri ever knew this was happening, she would just be horrified.
Michael Schiavo, Terri's widower, is talking about the Terri Schindler Schiavo Foundation.
We are helping families.
While Terri Schiavo's brother Bobby says the organization is set up to help families in similar situations, Michael Schiavo says he doesn't believe it.
They are using their deceased sister's name to make money.
In the last IRS report the foundation filed for 2008, it shows it took in $91,000 and paid Terri's dad, Robert Schindler Sr., her brother Robert Jr., and her sister, Suzanne Vitamo, $59,000, or 64% of the money that it raised. Charity Navigator, a respected charity rating organization, says any charity spending more than 30% on salaries gets a 0 rating. The foundation doesn't come close. Since the report was filed, the salaries have increased to $80,000 a year. But the foundation says one salary is in arrears, causing some family members to work without pay. And since the report was filed, Terri Schiavo's father has died.
Can I help you, or?
Yeah, I'm Mike Deeson with Channel 10.
Yeah, hi.
We stopped in to talk to Terri Schiavo's siblings after they referred us to their attorney, David Gibbs, who first told us he'd set up a meeting, but then said there were scheduling problems. He said you guys weren't available.
Well, as I said, we're going to go through him, and I think we should direct the calls to him if you don't mind.
Okay.
We just rather work it this way, if that's okay with you.
Schindler didn't tell us anything, including how the organization spent $34,000 more than it collected in 2008, about the money it raised from a concert with country stars Randy Travis and Colin Ray, why it tells the IRS it doesn't have a conflict of interest policy, and why it is using the name Terri Schiavo when this order gives Michael Schiavo intangible rights to his wife's name.
That means that nobody can use her name without my written permission.
Schiavo says he did that to protect anyone from exploiting Terri Schiavo's name. And now he sent this letter to the foundation saying it is in violation of Florida law.
But it's unfortunate that I have to do something like that, or even warn them that that they're out there raising money off of their deceased sister to live their daily lives.
Meantime, the foundation attorney, David Gibbs, sent us this letter saying the foundation operates on a tight budget with modest salaries for the family members who have given their lives to do the work of counseling and education regarding this cause.
As I said, I'd rather go through Mr. Gibbs.
And while they're not talking, they are making thousands of dollars from a foundation named after their sister who died embroiled in controversy and whose name continues to live in controversy 5 years later. Mike Deeson, 10 Connects.
10 Connects reporter Mike Deeson is live at Straw Park in downtown St. Pete. And Mike, you spoke with Charlie moments after he addressed the crowd.
Absolutely, Reg. A momentous day for Florida and for Charlie, who has been a lifelong Republican. I wanted to know how he felt about this decision, and this is what he told me.
That, it's a lifelong decision, and I wanted to do what's right for the people of Florida, and I know I have.
And you said...
late last night.
You told me at one point you will always be a Republican. Has that changed today?
Apparently. But I'll always be a Floridian. You're not changing your just like you, Mike.
Meantime, now the Republican nominee for the U.S. Senate, Marco Rubio, had plenty of reaction. Here's what he said about today's announcement.
When I got in this election, when I came into this race 12 months ago, I ran because I believed I was the only candidate in this race that would stand up to what was coming out of Washington and offer a clear alternative. And nothing that has happened today has changed that. I remain the only candidate in this race that will stand up to this agenda and offer a clear alternative. I knew that I was running against two other people who I think are good people, but quite frankly, I believe are wrong on the issues. I didn't realize.
But meantime, Charlie Crist says that Marco Rubio is running on the wrong agenda, and he's running on the agenda of the people. He will be trying to convince the people that that's a better choice than a party choice. And of course, Kendrick Meek, the Democratic candidate, who we have not heard from much yet at all, will now sort of gear his campaign against running against two men instead of three. So instead of a primary in August, we can look forward to November. There'll be a little breathing room right now as the candidates will concentrate on raising money, because to win in Florida, you've got to have a heavily funded campaign. Television is all important, and for Charlie Crist, he won't have the machine of the Republican Party. He'll have his own charisma and the goodwill that he has tried to generate for all the years that he has been in politics. It is going to be thrilling for any of us who love politics. It's going to be thrilling for the nation as well. A momentous day, as I said before, for the state of Florida, for the Charlie Crist campaign, and for the U.S. Senate race. Reporting live in Straub Park in St. Petersburg, Mike Deeson, 10 Connects.
While those expenses were approved, his new bosses want to know why they only learned about that spending. From 10 News investigative reporter Mike Deeson.
It's either laugh or vomit.
Michael Q. Sullivan of the consumer watchdog group Texans for Fiscal Responsibility is talking about the fact over an 18-month period, the man chosen to be the new head of TIA, Joseph Lopano, spent $147,000 in public money traveling around the world on first and business class to try to bring in new business. The aviation authority here didn't know that.
And I thought the consultant had been very thorough in all his analysis and all his references. We asked him to look at all news reports. So, leave it to you to go and find something that the consultant hasn't found.
When consultant Michael Bell found out about our story, he sent this email to the board saying, back in June this year, we did a press check on Mr. Lopano, and it yielded a series of articles on Joe, none of which referenced this story. Well, let me let you in on an investigative reporter's trick. Anytime we do something on anyone, the first thing we do is go to Google and type in their name, Joe Lopano, where they work, Dallas, Fort Worth Airport, and then type in either problem or controversy, which is what we did. And within 10 seconds, we were able to find the story that the consultant couldn't find. Cost for the consultant, $70,000. Cost for a Google search, priceless.
These are the sorts of things that really need to be brought to our attention before we make a candidate selection.
Meantime, Bell told us in this email he checked Lopano's reputation among his peers, interviewed references, and searched the news media, and his company believes Lopano is an excellent choice. But Bell did not provide an answer about Lopano's travel and how he missed it, and left us, as you might expect, up in the air. Mike Deeson, 10 News.